Alrighty, welcome everybody. Today we're talking about pest analysis. My name is Cheyenne Sobleski, and I welcome you to this learning session, I guess. So decision-making tools and techniques, they help in businesses plan for the future and then know the decisions within their company. It really allows businesses to really make a good decision and make it properly and know what's going to possibly be our outcomes if we do this option. And so the one that I chose was the PEST analysis. PEST analysis is a way to really assess markets so that you can look into them and see if we want to get into that market and just kind of know more about them. So it looks at political, economical, social, and technological aspects of a market. So why PEST? It improves the efficiency of moving into new markets. It really allows you to know more information and whatnot. And that is the why you would use it. So the when to use it. You really want to use it when you're going into markets. A lot of times it's used to going into foreign markets, but it can also be used inside of a country to look at going into a new region, because what the Midwest may use for something, it may be very different in the South or in the West Coast or East Coast or something like that. And so an example that I had of this was for another class, I had to make a company. And I made a nonprofit company that was called Empowering Change. It was about empowering women through having this business and giving them a job, giving them a trade, and just kind of changing the stereotypes of old, but it was in Uganda. And so then there was a lot of factors that you had to look at because you were in East Africa, which is very different than my growing up and my background with the United States. So it's very, very different. And so then how to use PEST. So it starts with the P, the political environment. This looks at the rules and regulations within a market. And then you move on to the E. This is the economic portion, such as interest, exchange rates, and stuff like that. So what does the economy look like? Then you move into the S. This is one of my favorite ones because it talks about the social factors, the cultural things, as what are the culture of the market look like? What are the demographics? All that kind of thing. And then you end with the T, technology, which is something that's really important in today's world. And so if we dive in to look at that even more, we talk about the P in PEST. Now, this is the political environments. This is really crucial to the analysis because if we're able to fully understand this, we have to know what kind of business we're getting into. What does the government look like? All that sort of thing. You really have to know that so that you can properly conduct business abroad, or even in a different region, I should say as well. And then so you got to look at the economic portion. Now, what is the exchange rates? For me, this is really important when looking at my fake created business for Uganda because $100 here is 380,000 shillings in Uganda. So now that sounds like a crazy amount, and it's not quite that much. But I would say what I could buy here for $100, I could buy there for 20 American dollars. So my money gets me a lot further. So if I'm looking at that from a business aspect, now materials are going to be much cheaper. So if I'm looking at that portion of it, my materials, so my cost would be very different. So you have to understand all those things. Now, the economic growth, is it a really booming economic situation or not really? What do the supply and demand things look like? What is this recession, inflation, and more? So kind of knowing all those factors. And then moving on to the S, the social factors. Now, when I say Uganda, the social factors, it's very different than the U.S. It's a third world country, first of all. And so you have to look at that. The gender stereotypes and whatnot really play a big role in how the country operates. And when I said my company was about empowering women, it was because women really didn't get an education. A lot of them have not had that opportunity just because men are put on a higher priority. And so the women haven't really been given that option. And so my business was about empowering women through Christ and then helping them, their children. There's a lot of single moms over there just because then men will come, they'll get them pregnant, and then the men will leave, and they just don't have the money to take care of another child or something, and so the men leave, and then the woman is stuck there with the child. So it's kind of about empowering women, and you have to understand these social factors of the country or of the region to know that market. This will really help your business be successful in moving into this new market, because what does it look like? What are the cultural influences? What are the trends, the lifestyles, the demographics, all those sort of things? And then you move into the T. Now, this is really important because technology has become so important over the last how many decades, because it's just changing and there's just so much of it. And it's just, so if you're looking at a new market, now what is the technology? Is it the technology really advanced or not really? Because for me in Uganda, now see, if I was looking at how I was going to market to the people there, I wouldn't want to necessarily do something on Instagram or use the technology all that much because a lot of people don't have access to technology. It was really common if we were in the city of Kampala, which is their capital, which is the uh, most Americanized part of the country. And it would be very common that I would just be walking through a store such as Walmart, like a Walmart type store, like a grocery store, supermarket, and the power would just completely go out. And so that's common there. And so you have to know that sort of aspect too, so that you can know that market. So investigating PEST even more. This was a website that I found that really looked into PEST. I would jump into the website, but unfortunately, the recording tool that I'm using will not let me go into another tab. But it really breaks it down, and I have a screenshot there over on the side of just kind of what it is. So it really gets into it. So really check that out when you're really looking at PEST. That's a great way. Also, this video that I found on YouTube, this really paints a picture for you all about PEST and understanding all the different factors about PEST. So also, when you're going through this training, I ask that you take a look at that as well. And then lastly, for our handout, I picked this handout because it explored a company, all the different aspects of their PEST. And so these were just a few, and each of the one highlights a different thing. So one of the things under political says vehicle quota system that inhabits the purchasing of new conventional automobiles. So there's new political government rules and regulations. You got to know that. Then on the economic portion, there's increased inflation rates. You're going to want to know that. The social aspect of this company, consumers prefer a low maintenance cost. So you got to kind of take a look at that as well. And then technology, battery range is a concern. So there might be a lack of technology for this company. And so moving into that new market, you have to be able to access all these things. And so if you want to even look more into that, the website is at the bottom, and I ask that you take a look at that handout. And then so practicing PEST, you really want to kind of pretend like you're exploring a new option. And so ask some questions. So for the P portion of the PEST analysis, when is the next election? How could this change the government policy? For the E, look at the economy. Is it stable? For the S, look at which age group is the biggest within that market, and is there any major cultural things that must be considered? And then for the T, what other factors, technology factors, should be considered? And then so for PEST performance, how could you use this in the future? Well, you're really going to want to know how to, if you're ever thinking about expanding to a new market, know this, whether it's new regions, new states, new countries, know this. And this would really be a great way to make sure that you're going into the market the best way possible. And so PEST is very, very, it was very informal to learn about. I say you take a look at more of these tools, the website, the video, and the handout, and they can really help you in the future if you're ever looking to expand a market. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this video really helped you learn all about PEST.